Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking AHosting's 2026 guide to WordPress Multisite. Now, if you've ever thought about running a network of sites, you probably know the front-end pitch, right? One convenient, magical dashboard to rule them all. But what actually goes on beneath the surface? Today, we're demystifying the intense server requirements it actually takes to keep a multi-site network not just alive, but lightning fast. Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll start with a multi-site reality check, explore the 3 core network architectures, and lay out the hard server specs for 2026. Then we'll look at the exact moment shared hosting fails and uncover a massive architectural mistake digital agencies make. Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, the multi-site reality check, beyond the single dashboard.
Most people think of multi-site simply as a content multiplier. Build once, deploy everywhere. But under the hood, it is a severe server load multiplier. Every single active subsite is duplicating database queries, PHP execution, and file input and output. It's an exponential drain. Imagine a server that runs one WordPress site flawlessly. Under multi-site, that exact same server might stagger and completely crash with just 5 sites, purely because of this hidden multiplying load.
So, knowing how it multiplies your load, we have to look at Section 2, 3 network architectures, choosing your URL structure.
Before we even talk about server specs, we have to understand these setups because they literally dictate what kind of hosting you need to buy. You've basically got 3 paths. First up is subdirectory mode. This is the easiest one, the path of least resistance, and it uses standard SSL. Second is subdomain mode. Now, this one requires Wildcard DNS and Wildcard SSL, which means your host has to be able to catch and secure any random subdomain you throw at it. Third is domain mapping, where each site gets its own custom domain. That demands separate DNS and SSL per site. While subdirectory is super easy, subdomain and mapped modes introduce really strict demands that a lot of budget hosts simply won't or can't support. Which brings us to the hard technical specs in Section 3, server requirements for 2026, the actual floor for performance. If you look at the official WordPress minimums, PHP 7.4 and MySQL 5.7, honestly, those are dangerously inadequate for a multi-site network today. Look at this contrast. For 2026, you need PHP 8.1 at an absolute minimum to keep things secure and fast. Your database really needs to be MariaDB 10.6 or higher, and for your web server, Apache is the old standard, sure, but for multi-site, you absolutely want Lightspeed or Nginx. They handle PHP worker efficiency so much better, which, as we're about to see, is pretty much a matter of life and death for your network. And then there's the memory limit. Because multi-site loads every single network-activated plugin on every request across all your subsites, that default 64 megabytes of RAM, yeah, no way. Your network will instantly choke. Bumping your PHP memory limit to at least 256 megabytes is just non-negotiable if you want to avoid the dreaded white screen of death. All of this builds into a huge problem for budget setups. Let's look at Section 4, the shared hosting bottleneck, where budget plans break. It's time to uncover the invisible trapdoor of shared hosting, PHP workers. These are basically the little engines executing the PHP code for your sites. In a shared hosting pool, if just one of your subsites gets a sudden traffic spike, it gobbles up all the available workers. And what does that mean? It means one busy subsite can completely freeze and take down totally unrelated zero-traffic subsites sitting on the exact same network. To avoid that catastrophic network freeze, you really need 8 or more PHP workers for networks running 5 or more active sites under load. But typical shared hosting plans, they usually cap you at maybe 4 to 6 workers. So you're mathematically set up to fail before you even launch. And workers aren't the only ceiling here. Database bloat is incredibly real. Just 10 subsites can instantly create over 120 tables. Plus, you have user table joins adding massive overhead because all the users across all your subsites share the core tables. Finally, as we touched on earlier, shared hosts often restrict or outright block the wildcard DNS and SSL you need. Combine all these factors, and it forces a rapid, unavoidable move to a virtual private server. But hey, before you just go and upgrade your server, we need to address an architectural crossroad. Section 5, multi-site versus reseller hosting, the agency dilemma. This is probably the most common and most costly mistake agencies make. I want you to ask yourself this crucial question right now. Do your clients just share a plugin set, or are they entirely independent businesses? You have to evaluate this because WordPress Multisite was fundamentally designed for related sites under a single administrator. It was never designed to house isolated, independent clients. The difference in risk here is massive. Multisite is great for related sites, but because it shares databases and files, literally, one bad plugin update on one subsite puts the entire network in jeopardy. Reseller hosting, on the other hand, is built for independent clients. It gives you full isolation. If one site has a security breach, it is completely contained to that single account. So if you're an agency managing different businesses, reseller hosting is absolutely the only correct choice for true client security.
Let's bring this explainer to a practical close with Section 6. Are you multi-site ready? The signals to upgrade.
Here's a concrete checklist for you. I challenge you to look at your server logs and your infrastructure today. Ask yourself honestly, is your current hosting architecture actually multi-site ready, or are you just surviving on borrowed time? AHosting actually provides 5 clear signals that it is time to upgrade. First, you're seeing 503 errors, which means your PHP workers are totally exhausted. Second, your network has grown past 10 active subsites. Third, your host refuses to meet your Wildcard DNS or SSL requirements. Fourth, you desperately need per-site plugin or theme customization. And fifth, your core web vitals are just declining across the board. If 2 or more of these apply to you, a VPS with a dedicated MariaDB instance and Redis object caching isn't just recommended, it's absolutely required. Because as AHosting's Matt Chrust perfectly summarizes, plugins cannot fix a hosting ceiling. The server is the floor that all performance rests on. You can do all the front-end optimization in the world, but you will never outrun poor server architecture. So, I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought. Are you building a truly related network of sites, or are you forcing independent clients into a single point of failure? Review your server specs, evaluate your URL architecture, and make sure your foundation can actually support what you're building. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.